Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. The transfer window is kicking off with the Euros over. Clubs are starting to do business and Arsenal have moved to the front of the queue. Big style, £50 million deal agreed in principle with Brighton for Ben White. Ben White, breaking news here, Jim White, Ben White to Arsenal for £50 million. Unbelievable, Jeff. But it is, look, I'm going to say this off the bat. I'm going to say something positive about Arsenal, so this might surprise people. I actually think Arsenal will have a better season this year. No Champions League football, no European football. Focus on the league and, a lot of time off in between games. And I think that should focus their minds on having a good Premier League season. I don't think they're going to finish 8th. I think they could finish top 6. And look, Arsenal fans are saying, you're taking the piss, this, that and the other. I think that's progression for Arsenal. I think realistically, top 4 is a shock for anybody if it's not Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool and Man City. So if Arsenal can get 5th or 6th, I think that's a good season. Progression. It's going to take time. They're coming from a consistent position of 8th. But £50 million on Ben White is a lot of money. This is coming from the BBC and they're saying that Arsenal have agreed a deal in principle for £50 million to transfer Ben White. White was obviously part of the Southgate. The deal puts White's performances for Leeds attracted a lot of attention. The Gunners have signed Tavares as well. But look, White's on holiday, so the transfer, including the medical, will not be completed until he returns. But the deal is done in principle with Brighton. Is it a lot of money? Yes, it is. Is he a good player? Look, as a United fan, I didn't want us to go anywhere near this deal. But different clubs, different things going on. For United, we had Lindelof and Maguire and we needed a world-class centre-back to come in. We were linked with Ben White. United were interested in Ben White, but only if they didn't get their top priority, which is obviously Varane and maybe Pau Torres. So Ben White was on the list, maybe 4th or 5th. So I can't sit here and say, he's a bad signing for Arsenal. I think he's a good player. I do think he's a good player, but for me, I just didn't want him at Manchester United. He's not the right player for us. We basically would have had an English back 5 if we played Henderson in goal. It just didn't feel right. But that doesn't mean that White's a bad player. I mean, look, a lot of United fans like me didn't want him. But for Arsenal, they've been crying out for a centre-back for a long time. They buy all these centre-backs. I think they've had 2 Gabriels, haven't they? They've had. I can't even remember the names, but they've bought quite a few in and it's not quite worked. Ben White is a good footballer. To play for Brighton, you've got to be good on the ball. He's good on the ball. He's mobile. I don't think he's super fast, but he's mobile. And at 23, I think he's got more development in him. He made it into the England squad. I think Arsenal are definitely overpaying for him. And I think Arsenal fans, there's enough there to be excited about this deal, obviously, and you've got to back him when he comes to your club. And I think, I would have done that if he'd come to United, whether I agree with it or not. But for Arsenal, I think this is the right sort of signing that they've got to make. They're not in the top 4. They're not in that position. They're probably going to have to overpay a little bit to get the players that they want. And £50 million is a lot of money. But obviously Arteta feels that this is the right player. And I don't think Ben White's going to come in and flop. Do I think he's going to come in and be the best centre-back in the world in the next couple of years? No. Do I think he can come in and be one of the best centre-backs in England in the next couple of years? Well, probably, because he put himself into that category already. He was part of the Euros squad. Yeah, he's behind Maguire. He's behind Stones. He's probably behind Mings. But I'd say he's, is he worse than Conor Cody? I know they're different types of centre-backs. So he's put himself just about in the top 5 centre-backs in England. He's now got to go and fulfil that. £50 million is a lot of money for a player that plays for Brighton. Realistically, I think Ben White's probably a £35 million player, not 50, but in a COVID market, certainly. So I don't know why Arsenal have ended up having to pay that sort of money, but I think this is the transfer market now. You think about a Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Let's go and buy him. I think a decade ago, Arsenal could buy Calvert-Lewin or United or Liverpool, and they'd probably pay about 30 to 40 million because Everton need the money. Everton are probably richer than Arsenal and a few other clubs now. They're a rich club. Leicester are a rich club. Villa are a rich club. Clubs don't need to sell players on the cheap anymore. So you end up, especially if it's an English player, you end up paying top price for them. And look, if Ben White's going for 50 million, can you imagine what someone like a Jack Grealish will go for if he goes, or a Harry Kane? So I don't think Arsenal have been bantered. And Arsenal fans would say instantly, look, wow, United paid 80 million for Harry Maguire, but Harry Maguire had just come off the back of a very good World Cup, and he was one of England's, if not England's, best centre-back. We still overpaid. I think Harry Maguire was probably worth about 50, and I think Ben White's probably worth about 35. So I think Arsenal have overpaid a bit, but we see this time and time again with English players. And you know what? Another player I'd throw into the mix as well, Declan Rice. If Chelsea or United or Man City think they're getting Declan Rice for 60 million, they're having a bloody laugh. He's got a long contract, and West Ham will just say, look, Arsenal have paid £50 million for a backup England centre-back. You're going to pay 80 for England's first choice centre midfielder. So this is interesting. I think Arsenal will have a good season, and I think it's the right signing for Arsenal, probably at the wrong price, but you know, Arsenal need players. Who they're going to get if they don't get him? They went for a cheaper option in Gabriel. I thought he'd be a good signing. Maybe he still will be, but they've had to pay top premium here. But where the market's going over the next few weeks, I don't know. I mean, we're meant to be operating in a COVID market where prices are reduced, and you're paying £50 million for Ben White, and you know Villa want 90 for Grealish, and West Ham want 80 for Declan Rice. All English players, all English tax. We know that. You would not, you know, Ben White, if he was playing for, I don't know, Getafe in Spain, and exactly the same player, but he was called, I don't know, Alfonso or whatever, I don't know, some Spanish name, he would be worth about 20 million, 25 million. So you do pay a tax. But as the player itself, I didn't want him at United, but to be fair, I don't think he's as bad as maybe I and others were making out. I actually do think he's a good player. I just didn't want him at United because I think what United need, as I said, we need a centre-back that's better than Harry Maguire. And I think in Varane, you can make that argument. You bring Ben White into United, is he infinitely better than Lindelof or Bailly? I don't think he is. But for Arsenal, he fits what Arsenal need. You know, they can afford to take that risk. They finished 8th the last couple of years. He's got a lot of potential, Ben White, and they don't need the high-profile Varane. They're not going to get the high-profile Varane Arsenal. And I'm not disrespecting Arsenal there. They're not at that point. They've got to start... You know, Arsenal can get people like Varane in the future, but where they are right here, right now, they need to build the foundations. I've always said that Arteta's probably a couple of years behind Solskjaer, and that's just time. He now needs to stabilise that club and, you know, get it back to being a top 4 club, and then you can start going for better players than Ben White. But you probably can get better players than Ben White, to be fair. I think Arsenal have got the money. I mean, look, at the end of the day, Varane's going to go for the same fee as Ben White. That's ridiculous. But Arsenal can't get into that conversation with Varane because he'll go, I don't want to play for you. You're not in Europe. I'm 28. I don't want to go to you. Ben White does because it's Brighton to Arsenal. It's a step up. Varane doesn't. Same money. Arsenal could afford Varane. They just can't do that sort of deal at the moment. So they've got to do deals, Arsenal. They've got to do deals. And this deal, whilst expensive, could be a good deal. And then in a couple of years, if they can get themselves back in the top 4, with the money they've spent on Ben White in a couple of years, they probably could knock on a door of a Varane or an equivalent and get them. But Arsenal need to get back to being a club that's attractive to the top players again. Because at the moment, and I know some Arsenal fans will disagree with me, but in the main, you're not going to get that type of player. You're not going to go and get an Mbappe or a Haaland or a Varane or a Grealish or anyone like that, because they're not going to go to Arsenal at the moment because the evidence isn't there that this is going to all fall apart again. So Ben White, £50 million. Let's see how it works out. I mean, take away, I would say, as a United fan with Maguire, you're going to get a lot of stick about his fee. That's harsh on him and it's harsh on Arsenal. We have it with Maguire. He's a very good centre-back. It's been a bit up and down, but he was always a good centre-back. £80 million was just too much. I think Ben White's going to have that, and Arsenal fans need to stick with him. Make sure you smash a like on the video, subscribe, get involved in the comments, and I'll speak to you all soon.